The Silent Sentinel. The massive Criveri battlecruiser Inevitable Conquest hung against the backdrop of stars, its purple-tinged hull plating absorbing ambient light rather than reflecting it. Supreme Commander Vexorn stood on the command deck, six eyes narrowed as the tactical display showed a single approaching vessel. "Magnify," he ordered, mandibles clicking with barely concealed amusement. The holographic display expanded, revealing a sleek human ship. By Criveri standards, it was pathetically small, perhaps 1/20th the size of the Inevitable Conquest. Its hull gleamed with a silvery blue finish that seemed almost delicate. "That's it," Vexorn laughed, addressing his second-in-command. "That's Earth's last line of defense for their Proxima colony." Second Commander Trazix clicked her mandibles in the Criveri expression of mirth. "Perhaps they sent it to negotiate surrender, Supreme Commander." The bridge crew joined in the laughter. Behind them, the tactical display showed their fleet minus 376 Criveri warships spread across a 20,000-kilometer front, the most formidable armada assembled in the past 3 cycles. They had already conquered 16 systems in their expansion, and the human colony on Proxima Centauri was simply the next target on their manifest. "Open communications," Vexorn commanded. "Let's hear what these pitiful creatures have to say before we obliterate them." The main view screen flickered, revealing a human female with dark skin, close-cropped silver hair, and piercing blue eyes. She wore a simple dark uniform with a single silver insignia on the collar. "This is Captain Amara Kincaid of the Earth vessel Defiant," she said, her voice calm and measured. "Criveri fleet, you are violating sovereign human territory. You will power down your weapons and withdraw immediately." Vexorn couldn't contain himself. His laughter echoed across the bridge, joined by the rest of his officers. "You have a unique sense of humor, human," he replied, once he'd regained his composure. "One ship against our armada. What exactly do you think you can accomplish?" Captain Kincaid's expression remained unchanged. "This is your only warning, Commander. The Defiant is not what it appears to be." "Indeed." Vexorn leaned forward. "And what exactly is it, then?" "The last vessel you'll ever encounter if you continue on your current course." The Criveri commander slammed a clawed hand against his armrest. "You dare threaten the might of the Criveri Dominion? We who have conquered 16 systems, we who have vanquished species far more advanced than your primitive kind." "Your conquests were against divided worlds," Kincaid replied evenly. "Humanity is united. We have learned from our past, and we have prepared for threats like you." "Enough," Vexorn snarled. "Target their vessel. Full weapons barrage. Show them the consequence of human arrogance." "Target locked, Supreme Commander," his weapons officer reported. "Fire." The Inevitable Conquest unleashed a devastating volley of plasma torpedoes and quantum disruptors. The energy signatures were so powerful they temporarily blinded the Criveri sensors. When the readings cleared, Vexorn expected to see nothing but debris. Instead, the Defiant remained intact, surrounded by a shimmering field of energy that seemed to be absorbing the attack. "Impossible," Trazix whispered. "Their shield technology shouldn't be capable of." Vexorn began, but stopped as he noticed something peculiar happening to the human vessel. The Defiant was changing. Its hull seemed to be flowing like liquid metal, reconfiguring itself. Panels shifted, revealing previously hidden structures. What had appeared to be a simple cruiser was transforming before their eyes. "Supreme Commander," the sensor officer called out, voice strained with alarm. "I'm detecting massive energy surges from the human vessel, and multiple deployment signatures." "Deployment? Of what?" The answer came before anyone could respond. From the reconfigured Defiant, hundreds of small objects erupted, spreading outward in a carefully choreographed pattern. Each was no larger than a Criveri escape pod, but they moved with uncanny precision. "Scan those objects," Vexorn ordered. "They appear to be autonomous combat units, Supreme Commander." But the energy readings don't match any known human technology. On the view screen, Captain Kincaid's expression had finally changed. A slight smile played across her lips. What you're witnessing, Commander Vexorn, is Project Hydra. One ship becomes many. The Defiant carries within it a fleet of advanced combat drones, each powered by a miniaturized fusion reactor and equipped with adaptive AI. As she spoke, the drones formed a complex three-dimensional grid around the Criveri Vanguard ships. They began to pulse with an eerie blue light. Human trickery, Vexorn growled. Destroy those drones. All ships, open fire. The Criveri fleet responded, thousands of weapon systems targeting the small human drones. But something unexpected happened when they fired. The energy beams and torpedoes seemed to bend as they approached the drones, many missing their targets entirely. Those that did connect appeared to be absorbed, causing the drones to glow more intensely. What's happening? Vexorn demanded. They're using some kind of gravitational manipulation technology, the science officer reported, mandibles trembling in disbelief. They're bending our weapons' fire around them, and those that hit, they're somehow absorbing the energy. On the view screen, Kincaid nodded. We studied the Criveri attacks on other worlds. Your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Did you think we would face you unprepared? All ships, close formation. Vexorn ordered. Concentrate fire on the main vessel. But as the Criveri ships began to maneuver, the human drones responded. They moved with impossible speed, positioning themselves in precise formations around key Criveri vessels. And then they fired. Not energy weapons, not torpedoes. They released what appeared to be microscopic particles that swarmed toward the Criveri ships like intelligent dust. Quantum particulates, Kincaid explained, as though she were delivering a lecture. Self-organizing nanoscale machines. They identify weak points in your hull structure and exploit them. Vexorn watched in horror as the particles breached the shields of his forward destroyers, then seemingly disappeared as they contacted the hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, sections of the Criveri vessels began to disintegrate, molecular bonds simply coming apart. What is this sorcery? He demanded, rising from his command chair. This isn't magic, Commander. It's science. Human science. We realized long ago that we couldn't match the Criveri ship for ship, gun for gun. So we developed alternatives. 3 Criveri destroyers were now completely disabled, their hulls compromised, their crews frantically evacuating to escape pods. The drones allowed the escape pods to pass unmolested, focusing their attacks on the capital ships. You see, Commander, Kincaid continued, while you were conquering primitive species, humanity was studying, adapting, and developing technologies specifically designed to counter threats like you. We knew you were coming. We've been preparing for decades. The tactical display showed chaos spreading through the Criveri formation as more ships came under attack. Some were disabled by the quantum particulates. Others found their weapon systems suddenly offline as the drones emitted targeted electromagnetic pulses. Still others reported their navigation systems compromised, their ships turning against allies. You can't possibly have developed this technology on your own, Vexorn accused. Humans are barely a spacefaring species. Kincaid's smile widened slightly. That's your fundamental misunderstanding, Commander. You see us as primitive because we haven't expanded aggressively, because we haven't built massive fleets, because we haven't conquered other worlds. But that wasn't from lack of capability. It was from lack of interest. More Criveri ships were falling to the swarm of drones. The massive armada, which had seemed so invincible, was being systematically dismantled by what appeared to be tens of thousands of coordinated autonomous units, all controlled from the single human vessel. Humanity chose a different path after the Unification Wars, Kincaid explained. We turned our innovation inward. Miniaturization, efficiency, intelligence over brute force, quality over quantity. And when we did venture to the stars, it was with caution and respect, not conquest. Vexorn slammed his fist on the command console. All ships, fall back. Regroup at coordinates Alpha 3. But it was too late. The drone swarm had enveloped nearly a third of his fleet now, and the remaining vessels were struggling to coordinate their retreat as communication systems failed under the human assault. "There's no need for further bloodshed, Commander," Kincaid said. "Power down your weapons, withdraw from this system, and spread the word to your dominion. Human space is off limits." Vexorn stared at the tactical display, watching this as mighty armada, the pride of the Creveri Dominion, was being systematically neutralized by a single human vessel and its impossible technology. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The reckoning. Impossible. Supreme Commander Vexorn whispered, watching as another cruiser in his fleet went dark, disabled by the swarm of human drones. "This can't be happening." On the view screen, Captain Kincaid remained composed. "I assure you, Commander, this is very real. You have two choices now. Continue this pointless battle and lose your entire fleet, or withdraw and preserve what remains of your armada." Vexorn's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation among the Creveri. The tactical display showed a disaster unfolding. Nearly 100 ships disabled or destroyed, with the rest in disarray. The precision and coordination of the human drone swarm was unlike anything he had ever encountered. "Second Commander Trazix," he said, turning to his subordinate, "deploy the Sundering Protocol." Trazix's eyes widened. "Supreme Commander, the Sundering Protocol has never been field-tested. The energy requirements alone cold." "Do it," Vexorn snarled. "I will not be defeated by a single human vessel." Trazix hesitated only a moment before inputting a complex sequence into her console. Throughout the remaining functional ships of the Creveri fleet, power systems began to reconfigure, diverting energy from life support, weapons, and shields to specialized emitters mounted on the hull. "Sundering Protocol initiating," Trazix reported. "Energy synchronization at 60% and climbing." On the view screen, Captain Kincaid raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. You're attempting to generate a subspace rupture." "A desperate move, Commander." "You know of the Sundering Protocol?" Vexorn asked, surprised. "As I said, we've been studying you for decades. We're familiar with all your weapon systems, including the theoretical ones." She touched a control panel off-screen. "Defiant, initiate countermeasure Omega." The drone swarm surrounding the Creveri fleet suddenly shifted its pattern. The individual units began to pulse with a different frequency, creating a complex interference pattern that spread throughout the battle zone. "Energy synchronization faltering," Trazix reported, alarm evident in her voice. "The human drones are generating some kind of quantum field that's disrupting our subspace harmonics." Vexorn slammed his fist down again. "Impossible. The Sundering Protocol was developed in absolute secrecy." "Nothing is truly secret in the age of quantum information, Commander," Kincaid replied. "Especially not from a species that prioritized the development of intelligence gathering over weapons of mass destruction." The Sundering Protocol continued to falter as more Creveri ships lost power or were disabled by the drone swarm. What had begun as a simple mission to conquer another human colony was turning into the greatest military disaster in Creveri history. "Supreme Commander," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple ships. They're surrendering to the humans." "What?" Vexorn whirled around. "Who dares surrender without my command?" "Ships on the outer perimeter, Supreme Commander. They report that the human drones have offered safe passage to any vessel that powers down weapons and shields." Vexorn felt the situation slipping further from his control. Not only was he facing a technological superior force, but now his own captains were breaking ranks. "Captain Kincaid," he said, turning back to the view screen, "you have made your point. Perhaps we can discuss terms." Kincaid nodded. "I'm glad you're being reasonable, Commander. My terms are simple. The Creveri Dominion will withdraw from all human territory. including the 16 systems you've conquered during your expansion. You will release any prisoners and evacuate all military personnel. 16 systems. Vexorn's mandibles clicked rapidly. You can't possibly expect us to abandon our rightful conquests. Those worlds never belong to you, Kincaid replied firmly. And I'm not asking, Commander. I'm telling you what will happen. As if to emphasize her point, another wave of drones detached from the main swarm and headed toward the inevitable conquest itself, surrounding the massive flagship in a sphere of pulsing blue light. Your flagship's shields are now isolated in a temporal bubble, Kincaid explained. Your weapons are ineffective, and you cannot communicate with the rest of your fleet. You are, effectively, my prisoner. Vexorn stared at the tactical display, confirming what she said. The inevitable conquest was cut off from the rest of the Armada. How? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How did humans develop such technology without our knowledge? Kincaid's expression softened slightly. Perhaps it's time for a history lesson, Commander. What do you know about Earth's unification wars? Primitive conflicts between human factions, Vexorn replied dismissively. Barely worth studying. That's where you're wrong, Kincaid said. The unification wars nearly destroyed our planet. We came to the brink of extinction through our own aggression and militarism. When the dust settled, humanity made a choice. Never again. As she spoke, the view screen split to show historical images, devastated cities, environmental catastrophes, and finally, the signing of what appeared to be a global treaty. The Turin Accord changed everything. We didn't abandon military technology. We transformed it. Defense over offense. Precision over destruction. Intelligence over brute force. While species like the Criveri were building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, we were developing smart technologies that could neutralize those advantages. The images shifted to show laboratories, testing facilities, and finally, the construction of the Defiant itself. The Defiant is not a warship in the traditional sense. It's the culmination of 70 years of focused development, a mobile platform for our adaptive defense system. One ship that can counter an entire fleet through superior technology and intelligence. But why? Vexorn asked. If you had this capability all along, why allow us to conquer 16 systems before intervening? Kincaid's expression grew solemn. A fair question. The truth is, we needed to understand your tactics, your technology, and your objectives. Each conquest provided us with more data, allowed us to refine our countermeasures. And frankly, we needed to be certain of your intentions. You used those worlds as test cases. Vexorn was incredulous. You sacrificed them. No, Kincaid shook her head. We evacuated as many civilians as we could through covert operations. Those you thought you conquered were largely abandoned worlds by the time your fleets arrived. Strategic withdrawal, Commander. Another concept the Criveri might want to learn. The drone swarm had now effectively surrounded what remained of the Criveri fleet. The battle, if it could still be called that, was over. Here are your options, Commander, Kincaid said, her tone shifting to one of finality. Option 1. You and your remaining ships return to Criveri space. You inform your leaders that human territory is now off-limits. You release all prisoners from conquered worlds. In return, we allow you to leave with your technology and your lives intact. And Option 2. Vexorn asked. We disable every ship in your fleet, extract all your technological data, and send your crews home in basic transport vessels with no military capability whatsoever. The choice is yours, but I need your answer now. Vexorn looked around his bridge. His officers were watching him, waiting for his decision. The mighty Criveri Armada, which had never known defeat, had been brought to its knees by a single human ship. We will withdraw, he said finally, the words bitter in his mouth. Kincaid nodded. A wise choice, Commander. The drones will escort your fleet to the edge of this system. Any ship that deviates from the prescribed course or powers up weapons will be immediately disabled. Is that clear? "Crystal clear, Captain," Vexorn replied, mandibles tight against his face. "One more thing," Kincaid added. "The Defiant will be monitoring Creveri space from now on. This isn't just about protecting human colonies. It's about ensuring peace throughout this sector of the galaxy. The age of conquest is over, Commander. The sooner the Creveri Dominion accepts that, the better it will be for everyone." The view screen went dark as Kincaid ended the transmission. Vexorn slumped back in his command chair, the full weight of the defeat crushing down upon him. "Set course for Creveri Prime," he ordered, his voice hollow. "And prepare my personal report to the High Council. They need to know. Everything has changed." As the crippled Creveri fleet limped away from human space, escorted by a portion of the drone swarm, the Defiant resumed its original configuration. The remaining drones reintegrated with the vessel, disappearing into its reconfigurable hull. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Amara Kincaid watched the tactical display as the Creveri ships departed. "Status report," she requested. "All systems nominal, Captain," her executive officer replied. "Drone swarm reintegration at 94%. Energy reserves at 68%. 3 crew members with minor injuries during the reconfiguration sequence, but nothing serious." Kincaid nodded. "And our casualties?" 27 drones lost, Captain. Less than 1% of total capacity. "Acceptable," she said quietly. "Set course for Proxima Colony. We should inform them that the threat has been neutralized." "Yes, Captain. And may I say, that was quite a demonstration." Kincaid's expression remained solemn. "It wasn't meant to be a demonstration, Commander. It was meant to be a message, not just to the Creveri, but to any species watching. Humanity wants peace, but we're prepared for war in ways no one expects." As the Defiant turned toward the Proxima Colony, news of its victory was already spreading throughout human space. The legend of the lone ship that defeated an armada would grow with each telling, becoming a powerful deterrent against future aggression. But for Captain Amara Kincaid and her crew, it was simply another mission completed. The real victory wouldn't be measured in ships disabled or enemies turned away, but in the years of peace that would follow. A peace secured not through conquest or dominance, but through the ingenuity and resolve of a species determined never to repeat the mistakes of its past. In the vastness of space, the Defiant continued its silent vigil, one ship against the darkness, humanity's guardian and its promise.